At the elementary schools.
Yeah,
What their
my
space.
son orders the growth plates in the toe. The day before floor hockey and basketball. Science.
Your toe?
In between the two nuts, your big toe is a growth plate.
All right,
You can do
there I
anything
am.
with
That's
your
what-
toe.
Haircut. It's not the growth plate. So it's gonna be up in 4 weeks. I'm just letting it ride.
Yeah.
I said, how'd you do it? He said, "I'm kicking a ball. I kicked the floor."
Yeah.
So what shoes were you wearing? He's wearing Crocs in the gym.
Sports mode.
Sport mode,
Yeah, that's just it.
4x4.
Sports mode.
Now you're gonna,
Put up the
you're
back.
gonna pay me back for the floor hockey league you got in and the basketball league I got in.
It's an accident, ruggles.
Wear the proper footwear.
That's true.
Ready to go. All right, we ready? It's 7 o'clock. I hereby call to order the Melbourne CC School District 24 Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting for January 13th, 2025 to order. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Founder Benson,
Here.
Brendan Murphy,
Here.
Peter Petrini,
Here,
Jillian Phelps. Here. John Ruggles. Fred Stepstrom. And Lisa Luce.
Here.
Do we have any public comments, Madam Secretary?
I don't know.
Oh, we do.
Oh, there's no check.
All right, let's rise for the
Oh, I
pledge.
was like-
I'm very confused.
I was so confused.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What happens when we try to get it out early? All right, do we have addition of any information or discussion items? Anything? Nope. All right. Then let's talk about these board policies.
There's a ton.
Policies.
To be quite frank, the majority of these, like the previous set, they're just about updates in language. They're all removing the footnotes. And I'd say probably about 80% of these are all determined by the state. So these are all law driven. So they're just updates in those. There's nothing in here that, in my mind, I don't know if Brendan, you got a chance to look at them. That's new, that's different. They're all very standard language updates.
I read through all of them and I didn't see anything that stuck out to me as particularly.
Yeah.
Crazy.
did Fred's issue get addressed?
Last time, yeah.
Yeah, the last one.
All right,
So we're good then, right?
we're good on the policies. Onto the back sheet. ELA pilot presentation, 7 from 8 to
Glad to meet you again. You guys, I presented, last month on the school improvement plan, so now I'm gonna be sharing some information about what our ELA teachers in 7th and 8th grade are gonna be doing, this coming semester, starting pretty soon. So, this should be about 5 minutes, just to give you an update. And honey, almost there, Jason. Yep, that's the first slide. You can move on to the second slide. We're gonna be talking about piloting ELA curriculum. Looking at a literacy plan, we're gonna be focusing on stuff on that goal 1 there, which is, shows evidence-based literacy instruction. So we're focusing on trying to find curriculum that fits evidence-based literacy programming. And then those are the steps that we're gonna be taking over there. We're gonna be, reviewing, curriculum. We're using a source called Ed Reports that gives ratings for curriculum out there that will tell us if it's meeting standards or not meeting standards, so you're not wasting your time looking at material that isn't up to snuff. Then we're gonna do some key on that with, so our teachers will get some training on the pilot material. And then our teachers will implement those pilot curriculum. And then we will evaluate them, and then end of this semester, you know, right before the summer, we'll be coming to the school board. Hopefully coming to the school board asking for an adoption of one of their curriculum. So evidence-based, this is a nice long paragraph describing it. I bold-faced a few words in there, which really kind of sums it up. It talks about curriculum that's undergone testing, it's evaluated by experts. They collect and analyze the data, and then at the bottom, That means that it's most likely to be considered credible and effective for producing promised results. This is information that we would get from ed reports, indicating if curriculum is meeting expectations or not in the review. So this is a sample from ARC, which is the elementary reading curriculum. You'll notice all the green bars that say meet expectations. That's really good, right? Okay, so I use this slide just as a comparison so that you could see the familiarity with ARC in the elementary grades and then what we're gonna be doing in those. So you can slide up to the next one. So when we were looking for 7th and 8th grade, these were some of the ones from ed reports that we were looking at. You'll see that the one on the bottom left had that partially meets expectations. And then the rest of the ones that we were looking at had those green bars indicating that they meet all the expectations that we're looking for. Our ELA and our 7th and 8th grade teachers were able to look at some of this material to decide which of those three that were meeting expectations were the ones we wanted to target. And they landed on Amplify as one of them. And if you scroll down a little bit, Jason, no, all the way. Sorry, I said it's down. The Common Lit is the other one that they wanted to pilot. So we're going to talk next and show some information more on Common Lit on the next slide. So this is a blown up version of what you saw on that before about meeting expectations. They mark it in 3 gateways, they call that, the 3 areas. So the first one is text quality, the second one is building knowledge, and the third one is usability. That's how they're being rated. So you can see rated very well by ed reports. And then if you scroll down to the next one, the Amplify alignment is also very much similar to that with meeting expectations in those 3 areas, those 3 gateways they call it. So we feel like we have good material here to pilot. We're excited about that. So the timing on this, so training and PD on the pilot curriculum, 7th grade Common Lit. We had an initial call December 17th with that company and it's an overview of how the curriculum works. And like training with the teachers, and then some time for the teachers to actually go on and kind of prepare materials and kind of lay out a plan for themselves. And then 7th and 8th grade Amplify, we had an initial call today to get the training set up for the pilot later in February. Because that pilot won't start until after the Common Lit pilot this time. So implementation, 6th grade, I'm backtracking a little bit. 6th grade has started using ARC, the elementary reading curriculum. They've expanded it into 6th grade. So that's what they're doing right now. 7th and 8th grade will be doing the pilots that we talked about with Common Lit and Amplify. And that's the timing that's listed there. And you'll notice that at the end of each segment, there's an evaluation time too for the teachers to go through, and they will be doing, there's some tools that we'll talk about at the end that will show you how they're being evaluated right here. So there's 2 things that we will do. One of them is the pilot evaluation tool. That's a tool that's going to look at those same gateways that they were calling the 3 areas that they were evaluated on to say whether they felt like they meet or they exceed the expectations. And then there's going to be a teacher survey form where the teachers, after doing the pilot, they'll be able to give some reflective observations on their own about what they thought about that pilot material. And then we'll be comparing that information amongst the teachers that are teaching them and come here with like a recommendation for the following year. Any questions?
6th grade is still on ARC.
Yeah, so that's the K5 curriculum, K5 curriculum.
Is that gonna stay that way, or are they gonna adopt the 6 through 8 for whatever you decide?
Is K5 gonna stay that way? Yes. Is 6th grade gonna stay that way?
6th grade is what I'm speaking of.
Probably is gonna stay with ARC.
Okay.
Because it's a good transition. Some of the research that we did at the end of the spring with the 6th grade teachers was that it was a good segue for 5th graders coming over to the middle school, a format, a system that they already knew in the lesson design, and that we were gonna stick with that.
Thanks.
Good question.
What is, do we have when you mentioned promised results, are they specific? Like, is it vocabulary, comprehension, I mean, is there a list of what our results categorized need to be?
Well, I think there's like 5 specific areas of reading. I forget exactly what they are, but like comprehension is one, vocabulary is another. 3 more I can't rattle off right now, but they would be all of those 5 things. They're looking for viable curriculum that is rigorous and evidence-based. And it meets the state standards.
Part of one of the things that, and maybe this isn't part of ELA, I've noticed with my children and other teachers I've talked to. It's one thing to read and know the material. It's really hard for, at least, again, I'm gonna speak to my kids. It's hard for them to, they know the material, but it's hard for them to communicate to anybody else what they just read. Okay, so they read it, they know what they just read, but it's really difficult for them to say, this is what this book was about, and here, you know, you follow what I'm saying? Is that part of that, or is that like a separate?
I'm sure it's part of it. What it makes me think of right now, which I know from what our ELA teachers are already doing. They're doing a lot of annotations in books when they read them, or in articles when they read them. They call them sometimes signposts, where it's like, oh, this is like foreshadowing. So they're trying to cue their brain to understand it. By the vocabulary that's being used, it's indicating something's coming up in the future. Or maybe it's another part of the story, or characterization, or you know, something like that, where they would take notes on the side of what they're reading. Okay.
So I guess maybe I probably would to get more specific answers as the ELA teacher son, because I get the comprehension, you you know what you learn, what you understand in the book.
Yeah.
But then there's another piece of that, and I guess it could probably be with any subject, was how do I show you that I know what I read? Or if I said, hey, what's this book about?
Yeah.
They say, well, he knows, but
Yeah.
can't really put into words what he knows.
Yeah, and sometimes prompting questions would help with that. Sometimes kids know, but so then somebody could say, well, so tell me a little bit about the setting. And when you say that, now they're like, oh, okay, I know what you mean now. I can tell you that it was set in World War III or World War, whatever, you know, or something like that. And go from there. Or if the teacher prompted with, well, tell me about the conflict that the main character is having. That might be enough to say. You just say, what's the book about? They might just have many
Well,
ideas.
that's true. So that is part of the ELA curriculum then that we're expecting to do that. Not just learn the material, understand it,
Right.
to be able to then
Analyze the text, yes.
And I can always piggyback off that for elementary about, you know, really transitioning from learning to read to reading to learn. And we used, like, for example, I went into a circuit classroom today. And they're really analyzing text features within their text, so they're like, and they're really narrowing down what are those key details, so that what type of text is it? Well, it's a problem and solution type of text, so like, they're really analyzing it, where, you know, I don't want to speak to our old curriculum, where it was just like, all right, how quick are you reading? You know, and you focus a lot on fluency and trying to get through the passage and timing that, which we do time students on fluency, is so that they're using their decoding skills to help really break down words. But once you get to the older grade levels, older elementary and middle school, this is where you're now using your skills. And now, what am I using it for? Well, we have our students doing research topics now and using a piece of text to, all right, what are you researching on? Well, even down in first grade right now, they're doing animals and what they picked an animal that they want to research, and now they spent the last 2 months researching and using text to really learn about that animal. So there's a purpose behind why we're reading, instead of just like, oh, it's still.
that's an upgrade then I think to our previous curriculum.
So you can look forward to seeing my team here in May to kind of go over the results and what they would like to move forward.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Registration and impact, well, fees.
Okay. So it's the time of season to talk about fees for next year. So I wanted to get that discussion started. We're not going to be approving them at this meeting or even this month. We can wait till February to do that for some of them, and some of them we can even wait, excuse me, longer than that. So the urgency for fees would be for the registration fees, because registration packets we start printing and preparing to give out to parents at the end of February and early in March. So just want to have that conversation in general, and it's going to go along with my budget discussion. So I think I'm going to go backwards, if that's okay. To get out of this. So Carly and I have been, of course, looking at the budget, which we do all the time. Carly does all the time, and we have lots of discussions about, okay, what's coming up, where are we at? What's happening either globally or individually, and as minutely as subscription to a service that we talked about today. So we're always looking at the budget. We're always looking for ways to save money or get the same services or better services for less money. And there's tons and tons of different discussions about that. But I want to take us a little bit back and go very, 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 very global today to start talking to our community about how do we have these conversations and what do we see coming. So I did some very rough estimating today, where if we take where we're at now, because we know where we're at today, push that forward with some basic assumptions. Let's say that our revenues from local taxes and fees, which are part of our local revenues, rentals, building rentals, let's say that increases 2% over time, over the next 5 years. And let's say that we can keep our expenses down to 3% increase year over year. What does that do to our budget? Given also that what we know is that the interest rates are falling from the cash that we have in the bank. So we are not having as much interest revenue this year as we did last year. A couple $100,000. It's not going to go away completely right away, but it's going to be reduced in the near future. And given that next year we can tax at our full rate, because this year we had an abatement, so we will collect the full amount of taxes next year. But given all those factors that we know, and assuming then a 2% increase in revenues on not state revenues, flat state revenues, flat federal, we can hope for that. I don't know if that's even realistic at the state level, but given that, that's where we want to kind of see what happens. So I did that, and it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, which is good. But I'll just show you what I've got. No, that's not it. So here's what happens between now and FY 30. Again, there's so many different variables, it's hard to project, but basically what we have is a goal, a stability goal that we set out a long time ago to say, okay, we need to have this much cash on hand in order for us to be considered a stable financial position. That's this green line right here, and that's it. This time just over 10 million. And each year that goal increases because our budget increases. So we want to have about 50% of funds, cash in the bank at the beginning of the school year. And the reason for that is because we don't get, the money comes in over the course of the school year in chunks. You have to have a little bit of wiggle room. And I'll try and explain that and see how that works out. The next line here is our maximum. Actually, let's go down to the red line. So the green line is our stability. The red line is the danger balance. So when our balance would get to that red line, that's the point at which, going back into history, that's about when we started doing TAWs. TAWs are borrowing against next year's taxes to pay this year's money, so you're actually behind. So when our cash balance at the beginning of the year gets to this point, which is somewhere in 6.5 million, we would be at risk if it goes under that to be having to borrow money to make payroll to get through the school year, just because of the way our money comes in. Just to give an idea about that. So the difference between the stability level and our danger level is about 4 million. So then I looked at, okay, what's our maximum, what would it take to stay at the stability level? And that's gonna be this blue line. That's our stability cushion. So that's the difference between the cash we have on hand today and this green line, which would keep us stable. And that's at about 2.5 million today. And as we go through each year, that goes away pretty quick. Because if we continue on this pathway of 2% increase and 3% spending, this year we're basically at 0. We're at even. Next year, we're gonna be ahead a little bit because we have the $892,000 that we'll be able to recapture in taxes. So we're gonna have a little bit of cushion again, and then that following year, we're back to 0, and then it goes down from there. If we are able to maintain 3% year over year average.
Now, what do we do when we get to there?
We have choices, so you can reduce your spending so that your spending is less, or you can increase your revenue.
What about the abatement that we previously got? Are we in line? Are we close to being on that threshold again?
Yes, so that's not taking into account because we have no control of that. Talking about the property tax relief grant,
Yeah,
that would be wonderful. That would be like, that would add another $1 million into our budget and keep us pushing this scenario out even further. Given the same things. Now, this is not an increase in programs. This is not an increase in or maintenance of facilities. This does not include significant expenditures of facilities. In fact, that didn't include any facility money other than operations in these numbers. So that's total separate money. And we have some money set aside for that. After this year, we'll have about 400,000, which won't get us too far, but that's another discussion. So I just want to start having these conversations about, to John's point, what do you do when you hit that tipping point? Well, you can spend down your reserves, but that's good. I won't let it get below this point here. So you could do this for a couple of years without having a significant impact on operations. But once it starts getting below this line and close to this red line, then when your fund balances start dropping here to here, that's when we're in trouble. So my point is a little bit of positive. We have some time. It's not like next year we're hitting this or the year after, but we do need to be aware of this and start planning out into the future because we want to leave the district in good shape. Your decisions now impact the district many years down the road. Just as the decisions of boards back in the early 2000s impacted our community up till now.
That doesn't necessarily mean referendum. I mean, you could have businesses move in, more houses being built. There's a lot of ways to.
Yep.
Revenue can go by itself, so. I want to be
could.
alarmist or anything.
Nope, I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm trying to hit it. Just so people are aware, so we can have these conversations. Because if housing, for example, is going in, if it's Briargate housing, that's revenue without any expenses for us. Which they point out, to be fair, which is true. If if a industrial complex went in or a manufacturing plant went in, it would be revenue without any expenses or draw on the school district. The townhomes that are being built by Children of America, however, probably will have some expenses on the school district with that. So.
How,
Yep.
how complete is Briar Gate?
Barely started.
They're what?
It's barely started.
Brady? They're in phase 3.
No, they are.
Yeah. Phase 1 is Melbourne, and that is almost completely built out. I don't know how many lots are left. And how many have started. I think there were over 80 homes built in that already.
Or are you tax on that?
Yeah, we're getting tax money.
So how many lots are available that are open that we can get, that we can expect tax revenue from?
I don't know.
I know,
I can look at that.
yeah, try to look into that. And I'd also do that for, it's the one by me. The townhomes there.
Those are all built. We
Heritage
received the
Park.
last of.
Yeah,
the
Heritage,
impact
oh, Heritage
fees,
Park is all built?
Or soon to be. So we received the last of the impact fees last week.
Okay.
So the question on those is, will the tax revenue, balance out potential students coming into our district and increase class sizes? That's pretty tough to predict. And class sizes is a one of those
Change.
flexible changing issues. So when you talk about options, there's lots of levers that we can pull. If we're looking at keeping our costs at the same and just increasing by 3% a year. And more students come into our district, class sizes can go up. If you're trying to maintain your class size at a certain level, it's going to be more costly because you have to add staff for that. So there's lots of decisions to come up as we have to make them, or need to make them. Just want to know that they are coming at some point in the near future. Now, things can happen. I expected this to happen a few years ago already, but COVID actually helped our district with some of the federal funding that was placed and some of our costs going down. It delayed that, along with a bigger difference was the property tax relief grant. That's like running a referendum without running a referendum for us, the impact of that. So that was a significant gift. So hopefully we can tap into one more of those and then we're good. Outside of that, this is just for operations and our programming and funding. Outside of that, we're looking at 15-ish, $20 million in the next 10 years of just maintaining the current buildings. I don't know where that money would come from other than a referendum. And so that will be a conversation. And it's hard to, as we've heard, some of the frustration from people in our community about taxes. I'm sure you guys hear it once in a while too. We're in a high tax district. So there's nothing to offset some of those costs unless some counties do a 1 cent sales tax to help with building projects. But I don't think that's gonna happen in Lake County. Not a popular idea around here. So I wouldn't plan on that, and I wouldn't plan on too many big manufacturing plants or Abbott Labs coming into Melbourne area. That's just not, our community is not ready for that, and that would take more than 5 years to complete.
Question.
Yeah.
On the facilities work, is the majority of the facilities work at this building? Or is it split?
Yes. Yes, definitely more at this building,
Like,
but this building's 200,000 square
okay,
feet. And the other building's 100,000 square feet, just to get perspective. So this building's twice as big as the others with square footage.
okay.
That building's coming up on 20 years old. So this building is, this part of it's 25 years old, so we're starting to see some equipment failure in both buildings.
Okay.
For example, every room has a unit ventilator in it. And there's dampers that open up and allow fresh air to come in, and they close it down when it gets cold,
At this building.
both buildings.
At both buildings.
We've had more issues actually at the other building because they're starting to fail. This building's kind of gone through that already, and the other building is now feeling that. So the actuators, the mechanism that closes and opens those are failing. And that's what can cause your pipes to freeze if you don't get that fixed. Or a real hot classroom or a real cold classroom. So we're trying to go through and replace all of those parts, and we've got it operating now. As much as possible, but those are just an example of, just like on your house, when the furnace gets to be 20 years old, it's time, the water here won't last 20 years usually, but. Commercial is about 20 years, things need to be replaced.
The question is like, if that building has $3 million, say we have $20 million repairs. We need. That building has 3 million that needs to be done. This has 17 because it's older.
Probably.
Would it be almost economical to just build a new building and ditch this one?
No,
No.
no, that's a good question. But to build another building of 200,000 square feet, well, this is fine. I mean, this building. Still, it's functional. I was considering that with like the oldest wing.
Right.
Where our early childhood classrooms are currently at. What would it cost to build 4 new early childhood classrooms and cut that section of the building out? And it's still cost effective to maintain it. At this point, but that's definitely a consideration.
Yeah, I mean, if all those are obsolete, we gotta change them all out. What else is obsolete? You know, if it's worth enough to just not do the repairs and build a new building, do we do that?
Right. The question is, do you do it piecemeal, little chunks at a time and try and bandage it together? Or do you just rip it out? Like, I'm thinking of that section where the early childhood classrooms are, tear it down to the bones and start over all at once, do all the HVAC, do all the sprinkler, get it sprinkled. New doors and windows, because the windows need it. The only thing that's good over there is the roof. That's good for another 20
We
years.
just replaced
We
that.
just
yeah.
replace that roof. The rest of it. So some of the good news that is gonna save us money is our roofing system. So we're getting our roof analyzed to see if we would be candidates for a top coat on our current roof. And you can do that with a 20-year guarantee or a 30-year guarantee on the construction. I have a sample of it right here. And it can go on top of, we have the building right over here, the 92 edition, 93 edition is this hard black rubber. Not even hard, it's pretty soft. It can go over that, but we also have white surface and it can go over that. It can also go over, we have one section, unfortunately, that's rolled roofing. It can go over the top of that and still get that warranty. If the insulation underneath is not too wet. So if we've got heavy soggy insulation that's starting to fail and we need to tear it all off and start over, that'll be double the cost of just doing this. And you still only get 20 years out of them.
This is the
So-
20-year, and what is this, a 30-year?
You can get a 20 or 30, no, this is the same, would be the old roof.
Okay.
So we're getting an analysis done, and what they do is an infrared. They take a drone and it's an infrared sensing equipment and they can see, I think it's heat. Where they can see heat coming up, and if it's wet, it looks a different color. I don't know how they do it, and they also take core samples in different spots. and then patch it to see if we can, go over the top. So far, it's looking like that's a possibility at both schools. So it would be this roof and at the other school. And some of the older pieces over here, there's 4 or 5 different smaller roofs that can go right over the top. That would be lovely and a blessing to do that. Time and money, and then to get a 30-year warranty on that, perfect. But we want to know if do we have to do that within 5 years? Do we have to do that within 2 years, or can we wait 8 years? How do we know when to do that in what parts? And that's what they're gonna start looking at.
Is it Wold who's doing the assessment or a separate roofing company?
Roofing companies. So we've got 2 quotes so far. It's about $11,000 to get that done. There's
To get the
another
quote done?
$11,000 to get the analysis.
Oh,
done.
got it, okay.
Yeah, because they map out the whole roof and do the drone and the core samples and everything. We're looking at another company who's interested in working with us. Well, Verigy, they would like to do it for free, but they'd also like a little bit of more indication that we'd be using them as construction management.
So if we pay for the analysis, does the company who does the analysis do the roofing too then, and then that money will go towards it?
And I could ask them that. I wouldn't use that. We'd have to go through the bid process anyway. That's why I'd rather pay for the analysis, so we're not tied to using a company personally. And not have any strings.
Yeah, but if we did, I mean.
But if you
it's
did.
still part of the bid.
Is something like that, we're required to go with the lowest bidder, or no, like,
Not on the analysis piece.
well, for
Oh,
the
on the
final roofing? That, because there's some things that we don't have to.
Right.
Use lowest.
Lowest qualified? or
Lowest,
lowest?
lowest qualified.
Jason's brother does it.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, $3 million.
Qualified is, they've done schools before and they have a track record of quality.
And I'd want a warranty. Yep. My brother does the roofs, but not these.
Oh. Maybe we get a deal. Does he know people?
He wants cedar shakes. Because that's what his.
Anyone else want to see this?
Yeah, you can pass it
Pass
around.
that around.
I was very happy to hear that and look at that option. Good deal all the way around.
I just don't know why you need an analysis. Why wouldn't you just be like, do it?
Well, if I need it then.
It's better.
Yeah.
It'll last 30 years.
Get another 5 years out of the roof.
But we want to make sure, so if the insulation is too soggy, then we can't do that. Then they have to tear it. So if it's sagged down too much.
Didn't we get a new roof?
This
Did you
is,
say? Yeah, so why would it be saggy?
no, this is 25 years old
Oh, I thought you said we have new roofs.
over there.
Oh,
Yeah, we've done 3 sections since I've been here. One of them already needs to be done again, which is extremely disappointing. So we're looking at the warranty on that. That was the roll roofing that's asphalt, that's like failing. But it's not leaking. So they won't do anything with the warranty till it leaks. But it's in terrible condition. We'll continue to look into that. So all that to say, and going back to fees, we have to pay for stuff. We have to, I know. I know.
Terrible.
So my philosophy, this is just me personally. And please chime in and I can be persuaded else otherwise. It is easier to pay for services when my children are in school. And when they're getting the services that I'm paying for directly. So there are some things that the community should agree to on a base minimum of education because it benefits all the community. We want good schools, we want good facilities and all that. And then there are other extra items that I think parents should have a direct burden or share. And I still think the community should support different activities because we want a broad spectrum of education too. But it's kind of to me, it's easier to pay when my kids are in school than now as a taxpayer paying when they're not. I'm happy to, by the way, personally, I'm happy to pay, but that's the sentiment that I've been basing off of. In that vein, then registration fees, activity fees, that's a tax, so to speak. It's paying for services that we're getting. And our community right now supports that probably 30% of our athletics and activities for kids, and parents are picking up the rest through the activity fees. At one point, it was 100% because when we're having deficit budgets and we're doing tax anticipation warrants, it was either parents are gonna pay for it or it was gone. So parents did pay for 100%. And those fees have stayed steady, if not dropped, since we implemented that. So my suggestion, or my thought is that we slowly continue to increase fees so that it's not all of a sudden all at once when we're unable to balance the budget that we're going out and asking for a big jump like we did last time when we went from $50 to $300 for band. For example, and $150 for all sports.
I hate registration fees for public schools, but I understand why they're necessary. Are we in line with everybody around us?
Pretty close. There's some higher, some lower.
How many, we've been consistent though for a while.
We haven't raised them in 15 years.
Is this something we need to be looking at like now, or are you kind of throwing that out there that we're
I'm
gonna have to
throwing
be
that out there
chewing
to
on?
start thinking, chew on it, just to think, I'd rather do like 10% across the board increase this year just to keep inching them up, so it's not quite as painful and less noticeable versus in 5 years doing a $50 increase in sports fees. Going from 150 to 200 would be tough. For example. So if we just did an across the board 10% increase, I would support that, but I'll go with whatever the board thinks, feels.
When do we make these decisions, over the summer?
Registration needs to be done in February. So we can send out, because kindergarten registration starts in February.
Sorry. They will be for next year, I guess.
For next year's speed, yeah.
So they'll start in summer.
For facility rentals, do we currently have different pricing for like residents and non-residents? Like the park district does or whatnot? Like, do we have any non-residents who use the facility?
Yes, yeah. It's structured a little bit differently because it's harder to judge non-resident, resident based on who's in the building because of the specific program. For example, the soccer club. Well, half the kids might be from Milburn and half the kids might not for Lake Series Soccer Club. The way we structure it is municipality is free. So if another school district or the park district wants to use our facility, we don't charge except for I believe we charge custodial, janitorial fees. Custodial costs.
So if the Park District basketball team is practicing at Milburn Middle School, we're not charging it.
Right.
Except for the,
Not a rental fee, we're charging if it was overtime for custodians. So if they came on a weekend, but during the week, we have a custodian on duty anyway, so
gotcha.
it's free. If you rent, so there's that, and then there's a commercial rental, and then there's like a nonprofit, different rates.
Over the summer, do we charge Echo?
Yes. They're. That's a commercial. So they get we take a percentage of their cut. So that's a mutual beneficial, so we want them to increase their enrollment, because the better their enrollment is, the more money we make. And the more space they use, then. That's offset by. It's kind of a natural accelerator, same with Red Apple. So those are some things to think about. I can send you any information that you would like to see on that, any questions I'm happy to answer. But that'll be coming up in February, but I wanted to get it on people's mind now, so we have time to think. And time for me to put things together, Carly, if we want certain information. I don't want to do a ton of work and then you don't want it, or it's not resonating with you. I want to be as efficient as possible. Okay.
Mhm.
The next item is the school calendar. There's no questions about the school calendar. That'll be on the next agenda for review or for approval. It is exactly the same as this year. It's just the day off of number on the calendar. And we don't take the voting holiday off. Election day is not next year, so we can put that back on Indigenous Peoples' Day in October. Good. Back to typical. Finally, Power School data breach.
Yes, do we need to go into closed session, please? Okay.
I've shared all the information that I know publicly, so. it's
Okay,
good.
just making sure.
We weren't the only school.
We were not, it was international.
Yeah.
So anybody that had Power School had their data at the Power School, not locally, but the Power School information is hacked and retrieved. They say they have it contained.
You're a different data breach every other week.
Yep.
In some company or some organization. Honestly, I assume all my information's out there.
Mhm.
You just do.
I used to do one of those like identity things, but I get so many free ones because everything gets released. But it's right with that. Every couple weeks you get something.
Didn't they hack Social Security?
I don't know,
What was it?
probably.
Wasn't there a
Or
government?
the
hack?
treasury.
Oh,
Treasury,
yeah,
yeah.
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 You remember a while ago, Target got hacked because the cleaning service they were using or whatever, it's all over.
There's no real way to prevent this, I assume. We're just kind of taking it.
Paper hard copies of everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for
Go back
real.
to the seventies.
Yeah.
Paper.
Can't hack that, yeah.
Yep, we have cybersecurity insurance and we have cybersecurity. Many different levels of cybersecurity that we pay a ton of money for every month now. So it's gotten very expensive for the districts to handle. It's unfortunate. But if there's anything updated, you'll know, I'll send it out. To everybody.
Future agenda.
Okay, we have a budget amendment that's coming up, not next month, but in future months that's for this current year budget. So we're going to do an amendment this spring, again, like we did last year, to tighten it up and make sure that we are running a balanced budget for this year, which currently are, which is great. The calendar will be on the next agenda for approval, and then school fees will be in February.
Superintendent report.
We're talking a lot about facilities and finance. We have a lot going on this summer, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it as we go forward. This library is getting carpet, these chairs and the are beautiful, and tables. It makes the carpet look dirty now, and we're gonna have to replace the carpet, which means that all those books have to be moved out, and all the bookshelves need to be moved out. And so that's gonna be a lot of 40+ thousand books.
Is there any asbestos? No, they're on the carpet. They're not like the bunkers.
Yeah, these are on top of the carpet. There's no asbestos in this building. This part was
This
built.
part, yeah.
The books would be a good service project, wouldn't it? Junior NHS or something. You know,
Maybe we have a system.
yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay, business office.
So I don't have too much, just wanted to share, I went to our insurance, liability insurance cooperative meeting in December, and they provided their projected increases for next year. Just wanted to share that. So they're expecting for next year a 7 to 11% increase in property casualty insurance. And a 6 to 10% increase in workers' comp. So, from a liability perspective, that's about $12,000 to $17,000, and for workers' comp, we're looking between $6,000 and $10,000. Be interested to see what comes out of this Power School breach, to see how much they increase the cyber liability as well. So more to come on that. And that is it.
Board reports. Anyone do anything fun over the break? No? All right.
A very lively group today.
A very lively group. All right, we're gonna get done in under an hour, guys.
Don't forget the Epic PSA message. If you can volunteer, please volunteer for Epic.
Holiday.
Always need volunteers.
Oh, yeah, the Martin Luther King celebration is next Monday
Okay.
here at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Really cool. Notice on the way out, the bookmark contest. So, I won't reveal which one won. Yeah, but one of them won, and that was poetry contest, and kids will be performing poetry, and then kids will be performing some of Dr. King's speeches. So they're pretty excited about it. So
That's very cool.
yeah,
Very cool.
so that's next Monday here in the cafeteria, 9 o'clock.
All right. Anyone else? All right, guys, we have one motion. We need to pass tonight.
Move to adjourn.
No closed session.
No closed session.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's go home.